The readings for this homily come from track 2 of Proper 10 of Year A from the Revised Common Lectionary. Isaiah 55. As the rain and the snow come down from heaven and do not return there until they have watered the earth, making it bring forth and sprout, giving seed to the sower and bread to the eater, so shall my word be that goes out from my mouth. It shall not return to me empty, but it shall accomplish that which I purpose, and succeed in the thing for which I sent it. For you shall go out in joy, and be led back in peace. The mountains and the hills before you shall burst into song, and all the trees of the field shall clap their hands. Instead of the thorn shall come up the cypress, instead of the brier shall come up the myrtle. And it shall be to the Lord for a memorial, for an everlasting sign that shall not be cut off. Psalm 65, verses 9 through 14. You visit the earth and water it abundantly. You make it very plenteous. The river of God is full of water. You prepare the grain, for so you provide for the earth. You drench the furrows and smooth out the ridges. With heavy rain you soften the ground and bless its increase. You crown the year with your goodness, and your paths overflow with plenty. May the fields of the wilderness be rich for grazing, and the hills be clothed with joy. May the meadows cover themselves with flocks, and the valleys cloak themselves with grain. Let them shout for joy and sing. The Gospel from Matthew chapter 13. Jesus went out of the house and sat beside the sea. Such great crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat and sat there, while the whole crowd stood on the beach. And he told them many things in parables, saying, Listen, a sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seeds fell on the path, and the birds came and ate them up. Other seeds fell on rocky ground, where they did not have much soil, and they sprung up quickly, since they had no depth of soil. But when the sun rose, they were scorched, and since they had no root, they withered away. Other seeds fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. Other seeds fell on good soil, and brought forth grain, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. Let anyone with ears listen. Hear then the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what is sown in the heart. This is what was sown on the path. As for what was sown on rocky ground, this is the one who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy. Yet such a person has no root, but endures only for a while. And when trouble or persecution arises on account of the word, that person immediately falls away. As for what was sown among thorns, this is the one who hears the word, but the cares of the world and the lure of wealth choke the word, and it yields nothing. But as for what was sown on good soil, this is the one who hears the word and understands it, who indeed bears fruit and yields, in one case 100-fold, in another 60, and in another 30. I think sometimes as we're reading through Jesus' parables, the lessons he's teaching and what he's trying to tell us about the kingdom of God can sometimes seem unclear. Jesus often forces us to lean in and dig deep, really going beyond simply being spoon fed and instead being forced to think, pray, and listen for the movement of the Spirit. And I argue that that's a blessing because it often allows these parables to speak to us in different ways, addressing us where we are and amid whatever we're going through. Then other times, though not often, Jesus helps us along in our understanding. And in today's passage, Matthew pulls us aside a bit with the disciples and gives us the inside scoop, kind of a decoder ring that we can use to understand the parable of the sower. The parable of the sower is the first in Jesus' parables discourse, and it gives us this glimpse into the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven. The discourse is an intense period of Jesus' ministry, bookended on one side by the Pharisees plotting to destroy him, calling him a glutton, a drunkard, and possessed by the devil in chapters 11 and 12. And then on the other side, by the end of chapter 13, the people of his own town rejecting him. This context is really important because what's being discussed in this parable isn't just abstract theology to Jesus and his disciples. It's what's happening right in front of them. The spiritual and community leadership of the day is taking Jesus' teachings and actions and distorting them in a way that may feel eerily similar and familiar to what's going on now. This parable is Jesus explaining to his disciples exactly what's going on and what to make of it. He tells us that he is the sower, bringing the proclamation of the kingdom that is the seed. And though this is the best news that a world in tumult has ever received, it doesn't take root with everyone who hears it. Some seed falls on the path, and the birds come and steal it away. The evil one snatches it out of people's hearts before it can take root, and the Pharisees are replacing it with their own spin, twisted and stripped of its power before it can truly land. Some seed falls on rocky soil, and it takes root quickly. It looks like genuine joy, but then when the sun comes beating down, that is, when following Jesus really begins to cost something, it withers quickly. There's no depth there to sustain it. Third, some seeds fall on thorny ground and are overcome. This isn't dramatic apostasy, it's much slower and more subtle. It's the accumulated weight of ordinary life crowding out and quietly choking the word before it bears fruit. So the sower is 0 for 3. By every measure, really the sower is an awful and reckless gardener, because a careful planter prepares the soil and places the seed where it's most likely to produce a return. And here we have the sower, that is Jesus, throwing the good news to every kind of ground. But even so, some seed finds purchase in good soil. And that seed produces a harvest of 100-fold, 60-fold, and 30-fold yields. Despite everything that seems to be working against it, the word goes out, and what's produced defies all expectations. Our reading from Isaiah today gives the exact same message to the Jewish exiles in Babylon. These are people who have been forced from their homeland to spend decades in a foreign land. The odds against restoration are about as discouraging as producing a harvest by sowing seed in bad soil. And into that situation, Isaiah says, as the rain and the snow come down from heaven and do not return there until they have watered the earth, making it bring forth and sprout, giving seed to the sower and bread to the eater, so shall my word be that goes out from my mouth. It shall not return to me empty, but shall accomplish that which I purpose, and succeed in the thing for which I sent it. The rain that Isaiah describes doesn't fall and wonder whether the ground deserves it. It falls, and it does its work, and it does not come back empty. Psalm 65 shows us God's same goodness. The psalmist describes the Lord visiting the earth and watering it abundantly, making it very plenteous, crowning the year with goodness and dripping with abundance. This is not the description of a careful, measured planting and provision. This is reckless, loving generosity, poured out over a creation and a people that has done nothing to earn it. And it is the same reckless generosity as the sower who throws seeds on paths and rocks and thorns. The sower knows that the harvest isn't in doubt. He already knows what the word is capable of. And so he throws the seed on paths anyway, on the rock anyway, in the thorns anyway. Not because he's careless, but because he trusts what the word does in places that look like they can't sustain it. Instead of the thorn shall come up the cypress. Instead of the briar shall come up the myrtle. And the yield, when it comes, Christian, will be 100-fold.